Waffle, waffle, waffle.
Hello, welcome to Die Rolling. I'm the ever-excitable Adam, and you're joining me here on Waffle Wednesday. This is a pre-recorded episode that I filmed the previous Wednesday, so any comments you made about what you'd love to see on the channel, I won't have read yet. And I'm doing this now because, essentially, this time next week, or today, I would have had an operation to remove my gallbladder. So I will be heavy on meds at the moment and no idea what is going on. So whilst my future / present self is currently, unavailable, I'm here to talk to you about the top 10 dungeon crawlers as of January 2024 that I have played. So I've got a list here of 10 dungeon crawlers, which I think are pretty impressive, pretty exceptional in some cases. Now, are they all technically dungeon crawlers? I don't know. Essentially, a dungeon crawler, I think, is when you have a group of people exploring an area and going on some form of narrative quest. I have had some other dungeon crawlers arrive at the point of actually recording this, but I've not played them enough to be able to include them on this list. But I think Dungeons of Doria is probably going to definitely knock something off this top 10 list, but I haven't played it yet, so I couldn't do that. And also Bardsung. Now, I've heard a lot of bad things about Bardsung, but I've also heard some good things, and from the little I played over Christmas, it's a contender. I also wouldn't count Core Space as a dungeon crawl. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but I mean, it's my list. It can be whatever it is. So here's 10 games anyway that I think are pretty good, that I would refer to or technically think they are dungeon crawlers. And we're going to start off with the most obvious one, the one that won my Game of the Year last year, which is, of course, Shadows of Brimstone. And I'm going to waffle on a little bit about these games, but not too much, hopefully. So Shadows of Brimstone is a 1 to 6 player narrative dungeon crawler where you are basically these characters, these archetypes from different kind of genres, and you are leveling up, fighting bad guys, and just generally having a good time. It is a pretty good kind of role-playing game in some ways. You've got your own little character sheet. You're going to be getting permanent injuries and mutations and stuff, and madness. You're going to be coming across really interesting bad guys, traveling to exotic locations, and there is so much content for this stuff that we will be doing an entire kind of like feature on Shadows of Brimstone in itself. I've already done one where I've gone through my entire collection as of the end of 2023, but I'll also be doing one where we actually go through a kind of buyer's guide, which was suggested by our good friend Nick. So Shadows of Brimstone, that's up there. It's fantastic fun. Why is it fantastic fun? It's just so thematic. It is great just rolling all the dice on the table, getting your luck absolutely shattered by the dice gods, and having a laugh at the table. It's just so much fun to play. So next is going to be one that you may not have heard of. That doesn't mean I'm a hipster. It means you are a dripster. So this is The Ghosts Betwixt. Now, Ghosts Betwixt is essentially a horror-themed dungeon crawler. If you think kind of Stranger Things meets Stephen King, so I guess Stranger Things, you play these family members who are basically going into this abandoned kind of haunted house attraction that is next door to them, where one of the children has been kidnapped. The artwork for this game isn't the most inviting. It looks very childish, but it really works for the game itself, and it lulls you into this false sense of security where you think, oh, it looks pretty basic. But when you get in there, man, this game is a deep dungeon crawler. It's got some very heavy depth in there. You're going to be rolling dice, coming up with combos. It's so cool. The narrative is really fun, and there's a lot of content in just the one box. And this is, I think at the moment they have chapter 1 out, and I believe they're going to try to do some more chapters. We're going to cover them on the channel. We were trying to do it last year, but we just couldn't get the time to actually cram it on there. I backed on Kickstarter a while ago. I played it a couple of times solo. I've never played it multiplayer yet, but I'm hoping to get some of this on the channel this year, just to really show it off. And my New Year's resolution is to play some games that I've not played before or haven't played in a while, and do kind of mini reviews. So Ghost Betwixt is definitely one of the ones that is on there. I'd love to do the entire game on the channel and show you guys how cool this game is, but it just depends on time and what else we've got going on. So hopefully we can do that. But Ghost Betwixt, definitely check it out if you're after a horror role-playing kind of dungeon crawler. It's fantastic. Next, we got Secrets of the Lost Tomb. Secrets of the Lost Tomb is an older game. It's been around for a while. They've just done a second printing of it. We did I did a kind of single-player adventure on the channel of the current edition, which is, I believe, is out of print. So if you want to check that out, go and watch that to get an idea of how the game plays. But essentially, if you imagine kind of like an Indiana Jones like 1920s pulp fiction style of kind of like theming, you are playing like explorers, adventurers who work for the Eternal Order of Perseus. So basically trying to stop the evil that is appearing from this lost tomb from like taking over the planet or whatever. You're going to be going up against so many different types of enemies. Cthulhu's in there, I believe. You also have like Nazis and stuff to contend with. It's so much fun. It's not as involved as it looks. It's not as involved as I remembered as well. It was fairly straightforward when I got around to playing it again. But yeah, what I love about it, I love the theme. I don't think there's another game out there that does this as well. There is a game called Arceus, which I would have loved to add to this list, but I've not played it and I do not own it. I did try to get it off of a web store, but yeah, they weren't very clear on when it was actually coming out. So hopefully, if it does come into retail, we'll get a copy of that and play on the show. Yeah, in the meantime, Secret of the Lost Tomb is fantastic fun, very varied, great fun at the table, and it's just an enjoyable game. And like I say, there is gameplay video of that on the channel, so you can check that out. Next is Skulltales Full Sail. This game I want to absolutely love, but it is tricky. It's tricky because of the rulebook. Now, a lot of the games I have that are Kickstarters, the rulebooks aren't great, but you can kind of get through them. Skulltales, when it first came out, the first edition, my gaming group loved it. I loved it. It was really good. There was a lot of rules in there, but it was fun. You had a dungeon crawl element where you're going through an island and you're trying to do whatever the particular mission's supposed to be doing. There's a bit of a narrative over there. You're kind of working with each other, but also against each other, which is quite interesting. And then you've got a voyage phase where you're basically going to be going out on boats and you're going to be like fighting stuff. And then a port phase, which in the original one was just the admin phase, as I like to call it. It wasn't very involved. It was a bit dull. And I actually created some like homebrew rules, which I put onto BGG as well, just to go, oh, try this out. Anyway, they did a second edition of this and called Skulltales Full Sail. And with that, they basically kept the adventure mode pretty much exactly how it was, so the dungeon crawl is the same. They went back over the voyage phase, which honestly could be a game in its own right. And then they went back over the port phase and they changed that up. At the moment, I've only played the port phase a couple of times and it's been a bit dull because we've just not had enough money to do anything in the port. The adventure phase, fine, exactly the same as before. A lot of actions. But yeah, enjoyable. And then the voyage phase. The voyage phase is so complicated and the rules are so unclear in some instances. They did in the new rule books, which I got printed out, and they're a bit clearer, but they're still not 100% clear. I kind of feel like somebody much brainier than I should go over that and just do a revision of the rules and just make it a bit kind of neater and a bit tidier. But yeah, with all that being said, Skulltales Full Sail is the only pirate dungeon crawler that I'm aware of where you get to explore islands, you get to go around in your ships blowing up bad guys, do boarding actions, and also having brawls in ports and stuff. It's fantastic. There's loads in there, but you do have to be able to invest in that rulebook, which is a tricky ask because it's quite complicated. The voyage phase, at least. The town phase is fine. The town phase is fine, and also the kind of adventure phase is also fine, but the voyage phase is quite difficult, and it needs a lot of patience to kind of learn it and get over it. Now, we have filmed some of this on the channel. You can go check it out. We will be returning to Skulltales at some point this year. We've got other things that are on our list. But yeah, hopefully we'll get back to it. And if you guys really want to see more Skulltales, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, if you're after a pirate dungeon crawler and you can get around a tricky rule book, then definitely check out Skulltales Full Sail. It's really fun. Next, Resident Evil 1. Been playing on the channel. I played Resident Evil 3. I played Resident Evil 2. 2 and then 3, actually. And then I'm playing Resident Evil 1. So much fun. This is the is the game that I wanted from the offset. They've really doubled up on the horror element of the survival horror. You kill a zombie, it can come back to life. It's fantastic. It makes them a real threat. In the other 2 games that I've done full run-throughs of the channel, I've just ran past as many zombies as possible because, you know what? It doesn't really... It's more about trying to beat the tension deck than it is to actually beat zombies. But this time around, you do have to kill them because if there's a certain amount of zombies on the board, it makes the overall kind of difficulty of the game harder. You do have to manage your resources better. And yeah, it just feels a lot scarier and a lot tighter. Yeah, really fun, fantastic fun. I'm looking forward to playing more of this on the channel. You can check out the first couple of videos, which I've done already. I started filming one of them and then my camera kind of gave out. So I haven't gone back to it because I kind of was a bit burnt by the fact I'd already done some and I have to try and figure out how to reset it. So it will be back on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But if you're after another horror-themed dungeon crawler, Resident Evil, the first one, is fantastic. And I'd also recommend you get the director's cut because it adds an extra array of gameplay options for you. Next is Dungeon Saga Origins. Of course this is going to be on the list. It's been fantastic fun. This knocked off Hero Quest. Hero Quest was on my top 10, but yeah, Hero Quest is no longer on there because Dungeon Saga Origins, in my opinion, is all that I actually need. That being said, we are going to be playing Hero Quest on the channel. We've got a really fun mat that's been printed out, which we're going to try that with there as well because it'll look really nice on the channel, I imagine. It's just a bit lush, I guess. But yeah, we will be doing some Hero Quest on there, and then I will be doing a comparison review. But enough of Hero Quest. Dungeon Saga Origins is a fantastic dungeon crawler. You don't need to have a kind of like, I don't know, doctorate in rules reading to understand what's going on in there. It's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. It's got some good tactical strategy in there with where you position your, which way you're looking and stuff. The narrative's fun. The miniatures are good. There's a few minor issues with the game in my opinion, but generally it is fantastic. I would say to anybody looking to get themselves a new dungeon crawler this year, look into getting Dungeon Saga Origins. It's that good. Great fun. Highly recommend it. Next is Descent 3rd Edition, which is the big box behind me. Now, I played the first Descent, I played the second Descent, and I've now played the third Descent. First Descent, in my opinion, was fantastic fun. Second Descent wasn't as good. And third Descent is a completely different game. First Descent always has a big part in my heart because it really was a decent dungeon crawler in my opinion. And they had this really fun mode where you basically had an overlord player having this huge map and you did this huge campaign. Now, I don't know if anyone ever had the time to actually complete that campaign. These days, definitely not. I couldn't do that. But that first Road to Legend or something was so involved, so deep, and just a really fun game. We tried playing a couple of missions of it. We got so far before other games came up, and we started playing those. But yeah, Descent first edition was so much fun. Second edition came out. I enjoyed, however, it was too similar to Imperial Assault, which I kind of have a bit of an issue with because if you're playing a game and you're against people, when it's a 1v many game, it's always tricky to really get that balance. And in that one, you really are trying to win. If you are playing as the Dungeon Master, you're trying to beat somebody. Same in Descent, second edition. You are trying to beat the other players at the table. And when you can just keep spawning monsters, and if there's a time limit involved in the level, it can just be a war of attrition, and it's no fun for anyone, in my honest opinion. Third edition came out. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. App-based. And app-based games, I'm always like, but how long am I going to be able to play this for until the app is no longer available? So that always kind of puts me off. It's also a very high price for this game, but it was on sale and I was like, why not? So I picked up Descent 3rd Edition and I've played the first 2 missions for it, and I was really impressed with the app integration. I loved how the 3D terrain kind of like sprawls out on the table as you go. Really fun. If you don't mind an app-based game and you're after some fantasy dungeon crawling, Descent's a great shout. High price level, a bit of kind of ambiguity about the rules in my opinion, and yeah, you have to have an app for this, but yeah, really fun, really interesting concepts and very different. And the app isn't just a gimmick, like it feels really integral to it. So yeah. Next is Blackstone Fortress. Blackstone Fortress was a game I absolutely loved. I moved it on. It's mainly because I just won't have the time to play this in its entirety. it's such a great setting, great theme, and it's one of those things I was kind of gutted that I didn't manage to pick up all the expansions when they came out, because I was like, oh, well, I'll just, I'm not playing it as much as I could be, so I won't pick up the expansions. Then they became out of print, and then I found out there's a whole narrative that you won't get unless you play all of it. So I kind of was disappointed with that. However, the theme in itself, this basically this big like fortress appears. You are these traders who go along to try to like steal as much of the stuff as you can. There are enemies on board, so you have to destroy them. It's really fun, really thematic, and just looks lovely on the table as well. The mechanics for it are the mechanics are so simple and so straightforward and so cool that when Curse City came out, I went up and picked it up. But we don't talk about Curse City. Blackstone Fortress, you can probably pick it up still. You won't be able to get the expansions for love nor money. You can find the files somewhere, maybe online, and then like use some kind of proxy miniatures. It's Games Workshop, so you'll be able to find stuff like that. But yeah, really fun game. Looks lovely on the table. And yeah, I think I painted up quite nicely. Next is one that didn't quite make my top 10 this list. At the start of my top 10, I said I wish it could be 11. I wish it could have been 11 because Rogue Angels is such a fun game. If you are after Mass Effect, the board game, look for Rogue Angels. It's as simple as that. Rogue Angels is a really fun thematic sci-fi. You can check out our video of it on the channel where we did a tutorial. We are so looking forward to playing the full game, and we're going to take some time aside to actually just focus on filming that. So we're going to be doing lots of Shadows of content this year, lots of Dungeon Saga content. When we finally get a copy of the full version of Rogue Angels, you can expect to see an entire playthrough of that campaign. That is a promise from me to you. You'll see the entirety of that. Whether we do 2-player, whether we do more than 2 players, I don't know yet, but we will be filming the entirety of it. All of us want to be involved in it. We absolutely loved it. And it kind of seems a shame it wasn't on more people's top 10s this year. But yeah, it is fantastic. I cannot emphasize enough. If you can late pledge for this, do it. If you're after a sci-fi extravaganza that is as deep as, I don't know, it's got elements of Gloomhaven in there. The combat's really fun. The narrative is really cool. It let me do, put up funny voices and stuff when I'm doing the characters. It's fantastic. Rogue Angels, need to check it out. It's so cool. There should be a late pledge at some point, I believe. If not, apologies. But yeah, beg, borrow, steal a copy of this game. It is so good. And finally, the last one is, I wasn't quite sure if this was a dungeon crawler in some ways, but I'm putting on the list. It is Lobotomy. This game just up here, it's one of the best horror games I have. The essential idea is you are playing patients at an asylum, and suddenly all these monsters start appearing. And the premise of the game, though, is that actually you are an insane asylum, kind of like person who's in an insane asylum. And you can't be trusted. So these monsters you're seeing could just be regular people. The axe that you've just picked up, the item card you've got, could be a flower pot. So I really enjoyed the idea that, this is kind of like horror, but also, is it really horror? Is it just in their heads? And it's not the tidiest rulebook, but it's really fun on the table. It looks really thematic and it plays really well. Bit of a longer playing time, but it's certainly enjoyable. There is a sequel to Lobotomy that I'd love to get my hands on to play it, but I just couldn't afford it at the moment. So maybe in the future we might find a copy of this. You might see this on Die Rollin, but at the moment you won't see Lobotomy 2 because it's just a bit out of our price range. So it's a fantastic game. You should definitely check out the first Lobotomy, and I think you can pick up Lobotomy 2 at the moment. So yeah, do that if you were after another horror role-playing game, another horror dungeon crawler. I mean, I guess that's my list. That's my 10 off of here. I've been waffling on Waffle Wednesday for nearly 20 minutes now. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully the real Adam at this point is recovering from his surgery. If not, good luck to everyone else who knows him. But yeah, hopefully I'm all good. Anyway, if you would like to make any comments about the things that I've said on here, if any have affected you in some way, please let me know. And if you'd like to see something different on our Waffle Wednesday next week, let me know in the comments below. And I won't have pre-recorded the next one, so I will have time to actually read these comments and come up with what you would like to see. Anyway, I've been the ever excitable Adam. Until next time, guys, stay safe or die rolling.